on a film called Dangerous Method, which must have been 2 years ago now. And he said, do you remember that conversation we had about Anna Karenina? And I went, yeah. And he said, well, how about it? And I went, oh, yes. So that was pretty much it.
Why do you say, ooh, yes? Because it's such a juicy, fabulous role?
Yep, that, exactly. I mean, I think the conversation that he was referring to is one that we'd had on Atonement, about great female roles, and there being so few.
Indeed.
And obviously Anna Karenina came up as one of them. I can't remember what else came up. Hedda Gabler must have been in there somewhere. So yeah, I mean, she's wonderful because she is, it's words that are bandied about so much, but complex and strange and sort of like some kind of very strange dark jewel that can be interpreted in so many different ways. So there are very few characters like that. You know, she's not necessarily the heroine and she's not necessarily the anti-heroine. She's both, and that duality makes her absolutely fascinating. So I think we were both interested in that.
Now, did he give you a sense this time of what his approach was going to be?
Originally his approach was totally naturalistic. It was going to be a straight telling of Anna Karenina. We were going to shoot it in Russia, mostly in St. Petersburg, in the countryside as well. They'd even been to Rekis in Russia. They'd found the locations. And then as it was going along, I think he read Orlando Figet's book, Natasha's Dance, which is a cultural history of Russia. And there was a line in it that said they lived their lives like players on a stage. And I think that obviously sparked something in Joe's head. And then reading the book, it basically Russian aristocrats in the sort of 18th, 19th century couldn't even speak Russian. They spoke French or Italian. They dressed in the French style. Their houses were designed, St. Petersburg is designed in the French style. The interiors are designed in the French style. The food is French. The etiquette was French etiquette. And then they'd have these rooms in their houses that were hidden and often behind completely secret panels that were Russian and were wooden and were nobody from outside the family was allowed to see it. It was kept like this kind of dark secret. And I think Joe got completely obsessed with that concept of them.
The stage behind the stage.
Stage behind the stage, behind the stage.
Which is so beautifully realised in this, and I think it works. I loved it.
Well, I think it's extraordinary, and I think I love it as well. I think it's always going to be something that people don't, there are going to be people that don't get it, you know, because it's so out there.
Let's talk about the acting, because if there's one thing when you're doing a naturalistic performance, which we all know is about authenticity and all of that, this is a little bit different.
It is a bit different. It was a tricky one to realise, because you don't in a way want to be confined by naturalism, but you want the emotions to be as real and as stirring as naturalistic emotions would be. So I think also the problem with a lot of performances within very stylised pieces is that they can become quite arch, and they're normally very, very minimal. We knew we didn't want that. We knew we wanted, I mean, when you're dealing with a creature like Anna Karenina, she is an incredibly emotional creature. I mean, if she were rational, the story wouldn't happen. So it had to be somebody that you could see was driven by that. So it was a tightrope walk, really.
So she's a prisoner. That's the other image I got from this. That no one throws themselves under a train unless they are trapped.
Yeah.
And I thought that the movie did a good job of tracing the arc that leads to that moment.
Yeah, well, it's you know, when you're playing with Anna Karenina, you know that she throws herself under a train.
I'm not giving a spoiler here.
No, you're not. I mean, no, you're not. No. Actually, do you know, it's amazing how many people don't know. But then fair enough, you know. But the first thing I think when I thought of Anna Karenina is the train, you know. So given that you know you're dealing with somebody that is going to do that, the preparation of the character does turn into, okay, how is this a personality that does it? You know, where does this come from within the personality? And as much as you're not thinking that right from the beginning, that this isn't a person that's going to do this, you have to put that depth, that darkness into it from the beginning, so it doesn't just, you know, come out of nowhere. So we worked very hard to kind of understand exactly who she was in order for that to happen. Hugely, I have to say, helped by the design and the costumes, because I love working with Jacqueline Duran, who is the costume designer who also designed for Atonement and Pride and Prejudice. I love working with her not just as the costume designer, but just as one of the creative people that I love working with the most, because she not only obviously has, you know, the concept, but she really works from a very, very character-based place. So
one of the dresses that you wear in one of the ballroom scenes has a shoulder that's off.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
She looks a little bit...
Madame X.
Yeah. A little, well, explain what you think was going on with that.
Well, I can explain what's going... I mean, with all of them, we got very interested in this idea that she was a bird in a cage, so she's completely trapped. She's surrounded by death at all times. So the fur being death, the birds in the hair that can't fly because they're dead and caught to the back, the diamonds that are that cut glass, kind of most severe of all stones. The only time we brought any colour into the jewellery was blood red of a ruby. The dresses themselves, a lot of it was based on that idea of lingerie, of falling off. So a lot of the fabrics were lingerie fabrics. We actually used bed linen for one of the dresses, so that idea that sex and death is a constant. The caged bird, the veils of the cage over her face, the actual cage underneath the dress that you see in the final sequence is you know, so the symbolism of all of it was a constant, and something that I really enjoy playing with, and that's why I love working with Jacqueline, because she's totally into going into all of that.
That green atonement dress I will never forget.
It's a great green dress. It's a great dress.
So you had done the Russian accent with David Cronenberg, and this extremely no holds barred kind of performance, and I wondered if that prepared you even more for this in any way.
Yeah, I mean, my taste in performances, in both what I do and what I like watching, is very, very subtle. I like people to hold back, because I find when people hold back, the audience emotes more. I find it more emotional. One of my favourite performances is Anthony Hopkins, and my brain's just died and I've forgotten the name. It's the one where he plays Lewis Carroll.
Oh, the one with Deborah Winger.
What the hell is that
I'll
called?
come up with it.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
There's a wonderful sequence in that where he talks about his mum dying, and he doesn't cry, and every time I'm watching it I'm absolutely bawling. But I think in a funny kind of way, my taste had actually... I'd begun to be confined by my own taste, so massively I wanted to do something that broke the barriers of what that taste was, and that's sort of why I was so loved doing Dangerous Method so much, was that it was a chance not just to subvert whatever is meant to be beautiful on screen, like the face that's meant to be this pretty kind of thing, but also to kind of shake up these performances and my own taste within these performances. Given that, you know, Anna Karenina is going back to what is a much more subtle kind of thing, but because I'd felt like I'd freed that thing up doing the David Cronenberg film, I felt like I could go to kind of... I had more to play with doing this,
yeah.
Which was great.
But you let it out. You were fearless here.
It was pretty, you know, it's pretty out there. Yeah, it's pretty all hanging out. Which is always good, you know.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks.